We're going to do a matignon. We're going to use a beautiful pork shoulder here. We've got a little flavor of France, apple cider from Normandy, celery root, onions, and Granny Smith apples. Look at this beautiful cocotte here. I love cooking in these. There's something that's really basic and grounded in cooking in something like this, and the transformation of the food as it cooks in here is just beautiful. We have a pork shoulder here, which we're going to cook a la matignon, and matignon, of course, is with vegetables of a specific size. So you can see here we have some celery root, we have some sweet onions, which are just typically yellow onions, and some Granny Smith apples. If you notice here, we have some flavors that are reminiscent of what we have in northern France, in apple country. So we have some beautiful apple cider here from Normandy, which we're going to use as our liquid when we make when we cook our matignon. We're going to begin by making a sachet, and the sachet is here with spices. Sachet is a little different than a bouquet garni. Although they look the same sometimes, a bouquet garni is typically, not typically, but always with herbs, herbs and vegetables. There are many times where we make a bouquet garni using the exterior green leaves of leeks and use those as an envelope. And inside we put thyme, parsley, we may put some peppercorns in there, maybe some tarragon, depending on what flavors we want to use in that bouquet garni. And that's used the same way as a sachet to perfume what we're cooking. In this case, we're making a sachet, so they're all dried spices and or herbs. We have a bay leaf. We have a cinnamon stick here. I'm just going to crush that a little bit. We have some star anise. Put that there. These are all wonderful flavors that really go well with pork and, of course, with the specific flavors of the matignon that we've defined. Some clove and a few black peppercorns. So there we have our spices for our sachet. Then we're just going to wrap it. This is cheesecloth, 100% cotton. Piece of string. I always start at one end, wrapping once, twice, crossing over, wrapping once, twice, going back to the center, and tying it. This assures that both ends and the middle are cinched. And then I'll do that old slip knot that I love so much from my Boy Scout days, and then just tie it to tight. So there's our sachet, which we're going to put in our cocotte after we've browned off our pork shoulder and sweated our vegetables. So we'll begin with that. Let's just set that here for now. In the meantime, I'm also going to tie our pork shoulder here. Again, the purpose of tying is to just maintain its natural shape, and that's kind of the natural shape. Otherwise it kind of gets free-formed, and we don't want to do that. We want to keep it compact in its natural shape. So we're going to go ahead and tie this. So bear with me. We go one lengthwise. And then I'm going to start going across. I want to do five ties, so I'm going to start in the middle with my first one. And then 2 on each side. Fairly simple. And there are 2 ways to tie meat like this. One is a constant single thread of string that you continue to tie and loop around itself, so that when you cut one piece of that string, the entire tying comes apart. I don't like that because I like to be able to take off one at a time. And depending on if I'm slicing it, I want to make sure that it stays nice and cinched while I'm slicing it. So this is my preference for the way I tie meat. Gives me more control. And there we go. So we have our pork roast all ready to go here. We have a little piece here. I'm just going to take that off. I'll throw it in there later with some flavoring agent. So we have our tied pork shoulder here. I'm going to go ahead and turn our fire on. Get it going. Oil. Again, I don't want to use a whole lot of oil in this case because you see there's a lot of fat already on the pork shoulder, which is going to be rendered off. So the added vegetable oil can be just minimal. It needs to be enough to begin the browning and the rendering, obviously, of this fat. Alrighty there. And go ahead and open our cider. We will be finishing the dish with a little bit of Calvados. But remember, the alcohol content of anything that we're using that has alcohol in it is always burned off. So we evaporate all that alcohol. So by the time you get ready to eat it, there's, oh, look at that. It's warm California. By the time you eat it, all the alcohol, free alcohol has been evaporated. Okay, I have a little bit of honey here. So we're going to go ahead and salt our meat here. Again, using kosher salt and that same method that we love, which is high above. Okay, so there we have our pork shoulder seasoned. Let's see what we have here. Again, we start to see little whiffs of smoke. We start to see the oil start to shimmer. I'm going to go ahead and put our pork shoulder in here. Being careful. You see what I'm doing? I'm trying to support on the bottom as well because I don't want it to slip out of my hand and fall in. So again, being careful to have it going away from you. Because it's such a deep piece of cookware, I'm not putting my hand inside. I'm using the spoon to let it fall in there. Okay, very important. Very important not to hurt ourselves, right? We want to caramelize this on all sides, and we're going to take it out. And we'll begin sweating our vegetables with our onions because we want to get a little caramelization on our onions. We like that the way vegetables start to caramelize and the flavor that it gives, as well as a little bit of color. Remember, onions are used to brulee, or onions are used to burn. We will cut onions in half and actually burn the face of the cut, and then put those in stocks to give it some more, fortify that color. Okay, I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. Again, always monitoring my heat, always watching my heat. Very important. When we think about the pig as an animal and what it contributes for our nourishment and all the different cuts that we get out of it, all those experiences, I automatically go to bacon. Who doesn't love waking up to the aroma of crisping bacon? Or a beautiful bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich in the middle of the summer when tomatoes are so beautiful. Shoulder is a wonderful piece of meat. Again, we're in that transformation cooking phase here where the shoulder is inedible in any other way except roasting it, braising it, or cooking à la Matignon, something that has a long cooking time to break down those fibers and those muscles. And we opened a restaurant here in Yountville about 12 years ago. We went to a local antique shop. And my partner at the time, Jeffrey Cielo was our chef as well, found two statues of pigs, and liked them so much he brought them back. We put them in the restaurant. Our graphic designer saw them and said, that would be a great icon for Ad Hoc. And Ad Hoc became the symbol of the pig. So you can see we're getting a light coloration on it. Now you can see, well, I'm not sure if you can see, but the amount of pork fat that's rendered in there already is quite a bit. We're going to leave that in there to really flavor our vegetables. Our vegetables will absorb some of that fat, as well as give off their moisture, their water themselves, so contributing to the overall maturity of flavors for our Matignon. There we have our beginning our browning. So I'm going to start with my onions. I'm going to put a little salt on them to help draw out the moisture. Again, as we know, salt pulls out water and liquid. We saw that in our Côte de Boeuf. And you can see how much oil and fat, I should say more fat than oil, that the onions have already absorbed. And so I know that these onions are going to really have a beautiful flavor. The sweetness from the onion, the caramelization from the onion, the fat from the pork. This is the moment where you really want to be patient, because this is going to give the Matignon, the pork, so much flavor, is this caramelization and color, as I spoke about. The vegetables that you can use, as we are using here for our pork, are endless. Carrots, potatoes, leeks are some of them that I would use. Root vegetables work really well. Sweet rutabagas, turnips. Think about the flavor profiles of the different vegetables that you want to use and how they're going to contribute to the overall maturity of the flavor. So when you think about turnips, you think about spice. So if you're going to add turnips to something, it's going to add that little bit of pepper quality to it. You think about carrots, you think about something really sweet. Tomatoes, you think about tomatoes, again, something sweet, but also has a little bit of acid to it. So you can see we've got a really nice caramelization going on there. Now I'm really working it, because I don't want to let it just sit anymore. The onions are almost dehydrated. There's not a lot of sound going on here from the moisture from the onions. So I'm going to go ahead and add my apples. And immediately the sound changes because I've introduced the apples, and of course the water that's in the apples, as soon as it hits the heat, immediately starts to come out of the apples. And then the hardest of the vegetables, which is our celery root, is going to go in. Now there's hardly any fat left on the bottom of our casserole here, our cocotte. We're going to throw our sachet. We're going to add about a cup of the cider, apple cider here. Again, I'm putting in that slowly. And I'm kind of stepping back because immediately what's going to happen is going to get steam. And the last thing I want to do is be standing over something that just starts to steam, because that's dangerous. I'll throw a little tidbit in there. We have our sachet, we have our caramelized onions, we have our apples, and we have our celery root. I'm going to go ahead and put my honey in it now. Really beautiful aroma coming off of this. Scrape down my sides to make sure there's no remnants of vegetables on the side. Have a nice bed of vegetables and in this case, fruit. I'm going to put my pork back in it. Set it right on top. Nestle it in there nice. It's already come back up to a simmer. So I'm just going to put the lid on for about 30 seconds just to get that steam started to be captured inside. After, I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to put it into our oven at 275 degrees. And I'll check it in about 2.5 to 3 hours. It'll certainly take at least that much time, maybe more, to cook it to the temperature that we want, to the doneness that we want. If you listen, you can hear it boiling. Turn off my fire. I'm going to open my oven door. It's heavy, it's cooked. In the center of the oven. And there we go. So now, it's a little bit over 4 hours. I tested it after 2.5 and it clearly wasn't done. But now it could be the moment we've been waiting for, and we've been very, very patient because patience is really important in cooking something like this, the Martini. So let's see where we are right now. And the aromas coming out of the oven are just really extraordinary. So I have a very simple cake tester here, and I'm penetrating through the meat just to feel for resistance. We talk about that resistance all the time. And of course, I'm not feeling any resistance. I'm actually feeling it very, very soft. So I'm confident that it's cooked. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on low fire because we want to keep it simmering to be able to thicken and make our sauce with the liquid that's in the cocotte. Okay. Oh, look at that. You can see how much liquid is in here. It's quite a bit. It's really kind of surprising. As it cooks down, the juices from the pork, of course, the juices from the vegetables, and the steam, because it's constantly steaming, so all of that's condensing back into the pot to maintain that volume of liquid. Gently lift that out. Such great aromas of France in here. Our sachet. Keep that just at a very low temperature right now. I'm going to go ahead and use something that is called kuzu. And it comes like this, little rocks. Okay. We're going to go ahead and pulverize that in our mortar and pestle. And kuzu is actually part of the pea family. It's a vine that's very prolific in Japan, and they take the roots and they extract it, and it's all natural. So they dry it and make kuzu. It's a starch in the same way that arrowroot is or cornstarch is, but I like to use this better. It's more natural. It doesn't give you a gumminess. It still gives you that nice sheen, and the great thing about it is that you can chill your sauce down and then reheat it without diminishing the effects of the kuzu, which is sometimes difficult to do with cornstarch or with arrowroot. Now I have a mortar and pestle here, but you could take the back of a spoon in a bowl and do the same thing. And this is very easy to get. You can get it at most grocery stores. I bought it here locally in Napa, so not a problem. I feel like a chemist. And of course, we can use, to make a slurry, we can use anything, any liquid. I'm going to use a little bit of our apple cider here just to reinforce that apple cider flavor that we already have going on in this dish. Just like arrowroot or cornstarch, it dissolves. It makes a slurry. You can see that. So if you're used to working with any kind of modified starch, potato starch, arrowroot, cornstarch, then you're pretty much going to adapt to this very quickly. Very simple. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add our kuzu to our simmering Martini here. Now, add as much as you like to the thickness. Of course, you need to be careful and continually monitoring it. So I added about a third, maybe a quarter of what we had there. I want to see the viscosity that's going to result in. So I'm going to let that cook just for a few minutes. In the meantime, I want to taste this to see where we are in our seasoning, if we need any more acid or things that are really important in those flavor structures that we always talk about. It's going to add a little bit of white wine vinegar here, bump up the acid somewhat. I'm going to put in a little bit of Calvados, again, to give it that fortified apple flavor that's so prevalent in our Calvados. The alcohol will cook off, it will evaporate, so there won't be any residual alcohol in the dish. One of the wonderful things to garnish this or to eat our Martini of pork with is a potato rosti. And this recipe is in our workbook. Not complicated, requires a little bit of time and again, a little bit of patience. So this is not a dish that you're throwing together after you arrive home from work. This is something that has to be planned and really enjoyed and savored. Savoring actually the process, not just the finished result, not just the finished dish, but the process is very important. We're starting to see again the bubbles, the way the bubbles react when something starts to get thick. So it starts to resemble like lava, if you will. You've all seen lava. Give me a little fire on my rosti there, just to warm it up. Final check on my seasoning here. That Calvados really brightens that apple flavor. We'll take our pork now. Almost looks like chunky applesauce. Now be very careful because it's very, very, very tender. The pork fat right here, I just want to cut a piece off and enjoy that pork fat. It's so good. So wow. There we go. I'll put some in a bowl to serve with it. Then I'll serve this on the side for those who want a little more. You can either go at this with a spoon and just kind of flake it off, or you can take a sharp knife. And again, you see, which is very helpful, I am supporting the piece that I'm cutting. At the same time, I'm supporting the piece, the larger piece. So it helps me guide my knife through. You see that? See if I can. Super tender, super tender. That fat just is prevalent throughout those tendons that I've broken down. Well, and you can see that the succulence, the fat, as I press through there, the pork shoulder has a lot of beautiful fat in it that keeps it very moist and succulent. So we just, these little pieces here, which are such, which such are treasures, these little nuggets of fat and meat that fall off. You got to go very, very slow and back and forth as you slice. Look at that. You can see through that here, that beautiful pork fat that we all love so much, or at least that I love so much. Right through here, through here. Yep. Again, we're going to finish it with some of our wonderful gray salt. Different meats take different amounts of salt. Pork is one that needs a little more salt than maybe chicken. But I always have a little bowl of gray salt on the table for people to enjoy. So I'm just going to garnish it here with just some simple watercress. And there we have it. Heaven in a bowl. Our braised, really beautiful braised pork shoulder, our matignon of vegetables, which includes celery root, onions, and those beautiful apples, a little bit of Calvados. Of course, our apple cider. We finished it with some gray salt and very fresh peppery watercress. I'm going to say goodbye because I want to dig into this.